The shadows whisper, unmasking hidden hatred, my dear seeker. Have you ever gazed into another's eyes, seen their smile, heard their praise, yet felt a twist in your soul? A whisper, soft but unyielding, murmuring, "This is not truth." No proof, no quarrel, no betrayal, just a hollow note in their laughter, a pause before their applause, an energy that chills despite their warmth. You are not mad, you are not imagining. This is the shadow, as Carl Jung, named it, the hidden, unspoken side of the psyche, cloaked in smiles yet seething with envy, resentment, or silent rivalry. When hate masquerades as love, it is a poison, not swift but slow, draining your spirit while embracing your form. Today I unveil 8 signs that someone near you harbors secret hatred, not mere dislike, but a deep, concealed malice. Ignore these at your peril, for they erode your heart, mind, and even body. Stay until the end, for the 8th sign will awaken your soul's vision, forever changing how you perceive others. Let us begin. Sarcasms sting contempt in jest. Have you heard it? "You're so sensitive," they say, grinning as if you're the one who's lost perspective. It was just a joke, but deep inside you feel the shift, the sting behind the smile, the wound behind the words. Something inside you clenches, not because you're humorless, but because you're honest. You felt the blade buried in the laughter. They call it teasing, but it never feels light. It always lands heavy, it always lingers. Their words seem wrapped in velvet, but beneath that softness is the cold steel of contempt. Their jokes always seem to find your insecurities, your past pain, your quiet vulnerabilities, the ones you never gave them permission to touch, and yet they touch them anyway, again and again, masked as mirth. And when you flinch, they laugh harder. When you speak up, relax, you're taking it too personally. And if you retreat, they turn you into the problem, the killjoy, the overthinker, but you're not overreacting. You're not imagining it, you're feeling it, and feelings don't lie. This is no ordinary banter. This is covert cruelty. It's emotional warfare dressed up in playful tones. It's a slow erosion of your dignity, cleverly disguised as closeness. I once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But here's the unspoken truth. Those who refuse that inner journey, those too frightened to face their own wounds, turn their pain outward. They project, they provoke, they poke at others to avoid confronting themselves. You, in their presence, become a mirror they cannot bear to face. So they distort the reflection, mock it, ridicule it, in hopes it will stop showing them what they refuse to see. Their sarcasm is not a sign of wit. It is a smokescreen. Their laughter isn't light. It's loaded, and the most terrifying part, they know exactly what they're doing. When someone repeatedly jokes about your weight, your voice, your failures, your trauma, it's not an accident. That kind of precision isn't casual, it's strategic. They test boundaries disguised as humor, pushing just enough to wound, but never enough to get caught. Because cruelty with plausible deniability, that's how they maintain control. If you find yourself shrinking in their presence, if you rehearse your words before you speak, if you feel like you must earn their kindness or avoid their ridicule, then this is not a safe connection. This is psychological manipulation. Real friendship doesn't hide daggers behind jokes. Real love doesn't laugh at your pain, so listen to your body, that tightness in your chest, the unease in your stomach, the fatigue after every interaction. It's wisdom. It's your nervous system whispering, this isn't safe, this isn't kind, this isn't love. You don't need to explain your pain to those who inflict it. You don't need to stay in places that shrink you. You are not too sensitive. You are awake, and that awareness is your beginning. Subtle sabotage, the dagger in embrace. Have you known them? The friend who forgets to tell you about the opportunity you would have loved, the job posting, the invitation, the breakthrough. The one who offers advice laced in care, but it always seems to steer you off course. They miss your celebrations. They claim they were so busy. They vanish when you're in crisis, then return with hollow concern once the storm has passed. Once you call it bad timing, twice unfortunate coincidence, but 3 times, 4, always. This is not forgetfulness, This is not clumsiness, this is sabotage, low, invisible, and delivered with a smile. A dagger disguised as embrace. It's the praise that feels just slightly off, the comment that sounds supportive but leaves you doubting yourself, the subtle shifts in their tone when you're shining. The way their energy cools the moment your light grows warm. You feel it, don't you? The pull, the way they root for you, just enough but not too much, because your success makes them uncomfortable. Each step you take forward reminds them of how long they've stood still. Each moment you rise reflects their refusal to rise with you. I once said, those who feel inferior do not climb. They drag others down to feel tall. This is that truth alive in motion. They won't openly criticize you. That would reveal their intent. Instead, they subtly delay you. Are you sure that's a good idea? Maybe wait a bit longer. You might get hurt. Under the guise of concern, they wrap their own fear and envy around your potential like vines, choking a seedling before it breaks through the soil. And the worst part, they do it all while smiling, while calling themselves your biggest supporter. You question yourself more around them. You shrink to make them comfortable. You tone down your joy so they won't feel threatened. That is not love. That is not friendship. That is fear wearing the costume of affection. Because true allies don't just celebrate you. They make space for your expansion. They don't compete with your light. They reflect it, amplify it, dance in it. They're not intimidated by your growth. They are inspired by it. So if someone constantly delays your decisions, if their support dims the moment you shine, if their affection feels like a leash, not a wing, you are not being protected, you are being controlled. Their need to keep you small is not your responsibility. Their silent resentment is not your burden to carry. You do not exist to comfort those threatened by your evolution. Your purpose is to grow, to rise, to break ceilings, especially the ones built by those closest to you. You can love them and still walk away. You can grieve the loss and still choose yourself, because love without support is not love. It is strategy, and your soul was not born to be out-maneuvered. Silent rivalry your win, their war you come bearing light. A moment of joy, hard-earned victory, something you nurtured with sweat and quiet courage. A new job, a healed relationship, a break through you whispered for in your loneliest nights. You expect joy from them, not fireworks, just warmth, not a parade, just a presence, but instead you receive a hollow "oh, nice, anyway, listen to what I did." The air shifts. Your triumph, once sacred, becomes a trigger. Your joy, once personal, now stands on trial in the court of their ego. The words are subtle, but the tension is thunder. This is not a friend basking in your radiance. This is a rival measuring your light against their shadow. You feel it in the way their tone sharpens, their gaze flickers, their story tramples over yours. They needed to win, even now, especially now, because your growth feels like their loss. I once wrote, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, but not all are ready for that understanding. So instead of self-reflection, they choose silent war. Their battlefield is comparison. Their weapon is indifference masked as support. They clap, but the applause doesn't reach their eyes. They smile, but only enough to hide the scorn beneath. You did not choose this rivalry. You came with open arms, but they came with quiet calculations, ready to keep score where you only wanted connection. You begin to notice the pattern. Your achievements are downplayed. Your struggles are ignored. And their stories always seem timed to eclipse your light. If your good news is met with competition, if your joy becomes a mirror they can't bear to face, if you find yourself apologizing for your happiness, shrinking your shine to avoid their discomfort, you are not in the presence of love. You are walking through a silent war zone. Understand this, you can be both compassionate and discerning. You can grieve the relationship you hoped for and still accept the one that exists. You can love from afar those who compete where they should celebrate, because real connection doesn't need a scoreboard. True friends don't race against you, they rise with you. They don't tally victories, they share them. Your joy is their joy, your win is a collective triumph. but with rivals masked as allies, your joy becomes a threat. Your elevation becomes a provocation, and no matter how gently you walk, you will always be too loud for their insecurity. So when you sense that your light unsettles them, when every victory becomes a silent battlefield, when your growth invites resistance rather than rejoicing, you must honor what your spirit already knows. Not everyone who walks beside you is walking with you, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do for your soul is to leave the war they started behind and rise, and apologetically, beautifully, alone. Hollow kindness, the smile without soul, they say all the right things. I'm proud of you. That's amazing. You deserve it. But why does your heart sink instead of soar? Why do their words, though sweet on the surface, feel strangely weightless, as if spoken into a vacuum? It is because you're not hearing them. You're hearing a script, a pre-written, mass-produced sentiment, void of soul, void of sincerity. Their eyes betray the truth. They dart unfocused, disinterested. Their body remains, but their spirit is somewhere else entirely, and willing, unavailable. This is not what love feels like. Love lingers, love sees. Love roots itself in the moment and becomes a mirror to your humanity. But hollow kindness, it's a shell, a mechanical nod in your direction, just enough to avoid guilt, not enough to offer grace. You feel lonelier in their presence than you do in silence. True allies don't just show up when it's convenient. They enter your joy like a celebration, and they descend into your grief like a prayer. They do not recite emotions, they embody them, but these empty smiles, these flat compliments, these automated affirmations, they are what I called ego dissociation, a fracture between their persona and their presence. They do not truly love, nor do they truly hate. They float, untethered and unreachable, offering what looks like connection but feels like absence. And you, being sensitive, intuitive, whole, you feel it. The dissonance rings loud in your soul. You leave their company questioning your joy. You share your heart and receive echoes, not empathy. Do not dismiss that discomfort. That unease is your spirit discerning truth, because there is a difference between kindness and connection. One can be performed, the other must be lived. When their encouragement leaves you colder, not warmer. When their praise feels obligatory, not inspired. When you feel unseen even in the spotlight of their words, it is not love. It is performance, and performance may impress the world, but it can never heal the soul. If you find yourself feeling more nourished by solitude than by their presence, if their support leaves you emptier than their silence ever could, then you are not wrong, you are awakening. The smile without soul, the hug without heart, the words without weight, these are not glitches. They are signs, signs that the bond you thought was sacred was merely social choreography, signs that your light deserves more than half-hearted applause. You deserve a love that stays, that listens, that breathes with you, and until you find that, let their hollow kindness fall away. Better to stand alone in truth than be held in pretense. Control masked as care the chains of false concern, it begins like protection. A soft tone, a gentle hand on your shoulder. I just don't want to see you get hurt. I'm only saying this because I care. And at first, you believe them. Their worry feels like warmth. Their advice feels like shelter. But slowly, quietly, something shifts. You hesitate before speaking your dreams aloud. You soften your desires so they don't sound too bold, too different. You doubt yourself, not because of failure, but because of their fear. What you thought was love begins to feel like a leash. They say you're impulsive when you act from the heart. They say your visions are unrealistic when they don't align with their fears. They question your timing, your readiness, your very ability to decide for yourself. And the more you listen, the smaller you become. You were once aflame with purpose. Now you flicker, cautious, dimmed by words wrapped in concern. They don't silence you outright. They erode you slowly, until you seek their validation more than your own voice. This is not love. This is control, dressed in the costume of care. I once wrote, those who cannot master their inner chaos seek to dominate others for a false sense of order. This is the core of their affection. It is not rooted in faith but in fear, not in freedom but in domination. They cannot bear the unpredictability of your growth, so they wrap their arms around you, not to embrace but to bind, to keep you closed, still, dependent. They call it guidance, but guidance leads you back to yourself. This leads you away. Real love empowers. It says, I believe in you even when I don't understand your path. It gives you space to fall and strength to rise. But false concern plays the long game. It conditions you with guilt. After all I've done for you. It rewards obedience, not authenticity. It needs you to need them forever. And here's the cruel irony. They may truly believe they love you. But love without freedom is just possession. So if you find yourself shrinking in their presence, if your decisions feel like betrayals to them, if their care makes you question your worth, you must ask the deeper question. Are they protecting me or protecting their power over me? Because love does not clip wings to keep you safe. Love teaches you to fly, even if it aches to watch you leave the nest. Let this truth burn away the fog of guilt. You do not owe your life to those who fear your light. You do not need permission to evolve. True care walks beside you. False care walks ahead, dragging your soul behind. Choose the path that sets you free. Choose the love that doesn't chain you to survive. Gossip's venom words that wound in secret. You walk into the room and something's changed. The air stiffens, smiles falter. Conversations halt just a second too soon. And though no one says your name, you know. You feel it, like a bruise beneath skin that hasn't yet broken. The truth has been twisted in silence, your essence reshaped behind your back. The walls remember what they whispered. The air knows what they've said. This is gossip, the venom that slips through lips in shadows, not spoken in courage but in fear, not meant to enlighten but to erode. They don't confront you. They can't, because to confront would require honesty. Instead, they alter your shape in the minds of others, not because of your flaws, but because of your light. I once said, the brighter your light, the darker your shadow becomes in others' eyes. This is not about what you did. This is about who you are becoming and what your evolution threatens in them. They cannot rise to meet you, so they pull at your image instead. They dress their envy in concern, cloak their jealousy in just telling the truth, mask their bitterness in fake laughter. They do not spread facts. They spread projections, pieces of themselves they're unwilling to face, shadows they refuse to own. They chip away at your presence through the absence of truth. Each whisper they sow into the soil of others' minds becomes a weed, choking the roots of your integrity. But do not shrink. Do not let the shadows shape you. Their gossip is not your burden. It is their grief, grief that they cannot sit with your joy, grief that they do not recognize themselves in your courage, grief that they were not chosen for the journey you're on. You are not what they say in secret rooms. You are who you remain in the open with dignity, with clarity, with unwavering soul. You may feel tempted to defend yourself, to chase every lie, to correct every twisted tale. But sometimes silence is the most sovereign response, because those who know you truly know, you will feel the dissonance between your life and their words. And those who believe whispers were never meant to walk beside you. If you feel the room grow cold when you enter, understand this. They were never comfortable with your warmth to begin with. Their gossip is not your defeat. It is a confession of pain, of insecurity, of smallness masquerading as power. Walk on. Let your presence remain louder than their stories. Let your truth be consistent, not performative. Let your silence be not passive, but powerful, because those who trade in venomous words will one day taste the bitterness they've sown, and you will still be standing, untainted, unbent, whole. Joyless at your triumph, the silence that screams they held your hand in the dark. When your world collapsed, they sat beside you. You wept, and they listened. You stumbled, and they offered comfort. In your valley they felt like shelter, but then something shifted. You healed, you stood up, and suddenly they vanished. You share good news, a new job, a breakthrough, a love that doesn't hurt, and their voice dims. The spark in their eye dulls. They reply, "Oh, that's nice," then glance at their phone, change the subject, leave you holding joy that now feels too heavy to carry alone. You realize something cruel but true. They only knew how to love the broken version of you, the one who needed them, the one who mirrored their own wounds, but your growth, your joy, that disrupted the balance. You became light, and they weren't ready to leave the shadows. It is a heartbreak few speak of, the grief of outgrowing what once felt safe. You thought they were lifelong, but they were seasonal, anchored to a version of you that no longer exists. I wrote, "If someone cannot rejoice in your joy, they battle an internal war." You did not wound them by winning. You simply reflected back the places in them still dormant, still aching, still afraid. Your joy became a mirror, and instead of seeing it as an invitation to rise, they saw it as a spotlight on their own stillness. This is not about ego. It's about emotional resonance. The deepest friendships dance in rhythm with your soul through sorrow and celebration. But when the music changed, they refused to learn the new steps. So they retreat, not with anger, but with silence, the kind that screams more than words ever could. You'll question yourself. Did I change too much? Was I selfish to grow? No, you evolved and they chose stillness. That's not betrayal. It's a divergence. If someone disappears when you rise, let them. If they cannot clap when you soar, don't clip your wings to make them comfortable. Because love in its purest form doesn't fear your becoming. It celebrates it. It cries when you cry, but it also dances when you dance. You deserve people who don't just hold you in grief, but lift glasses in your glory. People who don't just survive the storm with you, but bask in your sunrise. Your joy is sacred. Don't dim it to make someone else feel safe in their stagnation. You are not responsible for their silence. You are responsible for honoring your song. Sing it anyway, loudly, brightly. Alone, if you must, but never in shame, because you did the work. You endured the fire. You rebuilt yourself, and no muted reaction can diminish that triumph. The body's betrayal, the truth, in unspoken signs, words can lie. They are costumes, neatly stitched, carefully chosen, designed to impress, conceal, protect. But the body is honest. It cannot lie for long. When someone smiles at you, but their shoulders stiffen, pay attention. When they say, "I'm happy for you," but their jaw tightens, their eyes flicker away, their applause lands a second too late, you've just witnessed a truth language try to bury. I said once, the unconscious always speaks through the body. And it does, softly at first, then louder if we ignore it. We've been taught to trust politeness over instinct, to believe words over energy, to prioritize appearances over feelings. But your body remembers. Your gut records the moment you walked into a room and felt unwelcome despite every smile. Your chest tightens not from paranoia, but from ancestral wisdom. Long before we had language, we survived by reading what was unspoken. A glance too quick, a back turned slightly, a breath held too long. That's not imagination, that's memory, that's intuition. When someone harbors envy, when resentment simmers beneath their words, their nervous system betrays them. The body contracts around emotion, the muscles don't lie, the voice wavers, the eyes dart like they're fleeing from truth. You may feel guilty noticing it. You'll tell yourself, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I misread that. But your heart knows. It feels the cold hidden in their warmth. It senses the withdrawal disguised as fatigue, the lack of presence masked as busyness. They hug you, but you leave the embrace colder than you entered. They compliment you, but it lands hollow, missing the spirit that makes praise real. This isn't drama, this is discernment. We often speak of toxic words, but rarely of toxic gestures. But the body reveals what the mouth dares not confess. Look closely. Do their feet point toward the door? Do they avoid physical closeness? Do they sigh without knowing? Do they lean away when you speak of your dreams? These are your signals, not to hate but to understand, to grieve, to detach, because sometimes the soul knows what the eyes pretend not to see. And the truth is not always cruel. Sometimes it's simply quiet. When someone's energy feels draining, when their presence leaves you with questions instead of calm, listen. Your body is your first witness. Your intuition is your first protector. Do not silence it. You do not need proof to honor your peace. You do not need permission to believe the feeling in your bones. Their words may say, I care, but their posture says, I compete. The smile fades too fast. The claps come too late. The warmth is missing, and your heart, old and wise, feels it before reason catches up. Guard your peace, embrace your truth now, with these signs unveiled. What do? You need not fight or expose them. You need not hate in return. You must protect your peace, for it is a treasure too precious to squander on those who offer shadows. Set boundaries, cease justifying your worth, stop seeking applause from those who withhold it. Not all in your circle stand in your corner. Some linger to watch you falter, stabbing not with knives, but with hollow smiles and silent envy. Choose yourself, your growth, your freedom, your light. Self, love begins where false love ends. If these words stirred your soul, share them with another who feels this energy but lacks the words. Speak in the comments which sign struck your heart, which truth burned brightest. For more raw insights into the human psyche, subscribe, for we are diving deeper into the shadows and truths of this masked world. Your journey to clarity has begun.